you fabulous freaks. Yeah, we get silly just to get serious.
Yeah. Yeah, we are doing a mental health and goth subculture discussion today.
Dun dun dun.
We asked a bunch of you what questions you want to ask us about goth and mental health, and we're going to discuss our opinions. I want to make very clear, we are not professionals, we are not counselors, we're not therapists.
Well, I'm a massage therapist, but there's a total difference between that.
Yeah.
I'm a therapist for your muscles, not your brain.
She rubs butts, not minds.
Exactly. Most we're sharing is basically our own experiences, our own experiences and our own things that we've learned over the years to help us with what we've been going through, or what we've gone through. So hopefully it helps someone else. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know.
I also want to say, if you are feeling suicidal by any chance, we will include a suicide hotline down below. Please call them. We are not the answer to everything, so yeah, please call them. Don't rely on internet famous people, because secret is none of us know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, that's the secret. We only look like we know what we're doing. We don't actually know what we're doing.
We don't know jack shit.
I know whenever I talk about mental illness, a lot of times to other people, they oftentimes do the, oh, I'm so sorry, and they feel bad, and I'll bring up like my past experiences that have affected it, and they'll go, oh, I'm so sorry, and it's like, well, that's nice and all, but it doesn't do anything. So it's one of those, we're not asking for pity, we're not asking, I know for me personally, I'm not asking you for pity. I'm not asking anyone for pity or any of that, but just
send all the pity my way.
Yeah, no, she can have pity. I don't want it. It's sweet in sentiment, but it doesn't help. It doesn't add to the conversation.
No, it doesn't.
It just takes away from it and makes, well, I know me personally, it makes me feel more like a burden or a freak of nature, and I don't personally appreciate being I don't not appreciate, but I appreciate the sentiment, but it's not necessary.
No.
Pity party. I do that by myself on my sad days.
Pity party.
Yeah, those are a thing.
Not formally, I've only been to a therapist maybe about 2 times, and it just got really fucking expensive, even with health insurance. So it's just one of those things that I really do want to do, and I want to see like what the hell my issue is. But as of right now, it's pretty much a self-diagnosis of anxiety and depression, which I don't recommend anybody ever do by any means. Like, don't self-diagnose yourself. You are not a professional. You know, it takes a while for them to figure out, what's going on.
Some of them can figure it out pretty quick, but most of them, they have to really get to know you and talk to you and,
yeah,
invest a lot into you before they can figure out what your deal is.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. As for me, I have been formally diagnosed with multiple things. They diagnosed me with general anxiety disorder. Yay! And then there's, a little sprinkling of PTSD in there, because that's always good. Everybody needs that little bit of flavor. It makes you interesting to guess. And then on top of that, they diagnosed me with dysthymia, which is basically a long-term, low-grade form of depression.
Oh, okay.
So it's based mostly off of my serotonin levels, and that's about it. And will it ever be cured? We don't know. But it's not the intense depression, like the super ones that most people are worried about, the super suicidal and bipolar and so forth. It's just low grade. I always have that little cloud over my head.
I do know that I've had a couple panic attacks in the past. I haven't had a really bad one in quite a while, but it was really weird because it just developed really suddenly, and I just kind of like would have it in the middle of work, and you know, and when you first have it, it's really scary because you feel like it's a heart attack, but it's not.
Yeah.
And then as you get older and you experience it more, it's for some reason embarrassing. Like, you feel like the kid who wet themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then even though like nobody really gives a shit and they've all fucking wet themselves too.
Yeah,
then
you're not cool unless you pee your pants.
Yeah. It kind of feels like that because you're just embarrassed and you just don't want to talk to anybody, or
Yeah.
you know, hide in the car.
Yeah, and I think stigma and stuff has a lot to do with that too.
That too, yeah. I do know quite a bit about depression because actually one of the reasons I know a lot about mental health is because my ex-boyfriend, who was going to school for neuroscientist, to become a neuroscientist.
Oh, I thought he was going for, okay.
Well, he wanted to be a psychology teacher, but then he kind of wanted to get into neuroscience, but I learned a lot just talking to him about it. I always found it really fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. The general facts that I know about my depression and everything is it's mostly related to serotonin levels in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had one doctor explain it to me, and how they explained it to me was that they said your serotonin in your brain that we create constantly is supposed to go up to like a certain level. So your serotonin's supposed to come up to here and then drop down and refill. It's supposed to come up to here, drop down, refill. Over and over again. Apparently, how it was explained to me, cases like mine, my serotonin levels, they don't reach the point they're supposed to. They don't come up here, they'll get up to like here, and then they'll drop down. Mm-hmm. Or they'll get up barely anything and drop down, and then, you know, so my serotonin levels are all over the map. So that's basically how it was explained to me in SSRIs, and yay, medication! Been to multiple doctors, and that's basically the best description I've gotten from the last one. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the anxiety and PTSD, it's like, well, trauma happens.
Not so much anymore. I think especially with things like anxiety, it's all situational. Because, I mean, when it comes to, like, I'm way better off now than I was when I lived in a tiny apartment, you know, because now I have a nice big house, and I have room, and I can breathe, and I have my own space. I don't have to worry about things as much. Granted, I have to worry about higher bills, but, you know. And
it is what it is.
Yeah, and I also changed up my job situation as well, which helped a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot better as far as anxiety goes. Depression's still hit or miss, but I think that's with anybody, especially like seasonal depression.
Yeah.
It, you know, and January's been freaking weird because it's like it hasn't even been like horribly cold and snowing that much. So, but it's still, your body still feels like, I need to stay in.
Yeah.
What's happening?
To be honest, I didn't know, like growing up, I didn't know my brain was different than other people's brains until I was like 12. More or less, it was really hard in the beginning because I kept wondering what the hell is wrong with me. And it was always like, damn it, I don't want to do these things. It's hard to get out of bed. I really don't want to interact with these people. It's hard to just do anything. My self-confidence is bullshit, you know, and then on top of that, bullying and everything else. It was just like, ugh, that was rough. But it got a whole lot better around college. Mm-hmm. Finally getting out of crappy little town. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, I feel like.
And I think that's when I finally had like my first panic attack. And I thought I was dying. I remember calling up my one friend being like, dude, is this what it's like? Yeah, what is it like to have a panic attack? Because I think I'm having one. Either that or a heart attack. It might be a stroke. I don't know. Help. And that's when I was introduced to Ativan. Every day is a little different in my point of view from everyone else. Yeah. It's just, I constantly have to remind myself it's gonna be okay. It's a constant, I gotta do something to cheer myself up or I'm gonna be stuck in the sad. So yeah, or in the anxiety, or work myself up into something if I don't do my coping skills. So I guess it makes me like slightly more frantic and manic than other people, or more energetic. I guess if that's how everyone sees it. I don't know. I don't know how it sees it, but it just makes life interesting. But for the most part, most days I can get through pretty easy. But with the depression part, it's normally really hard to get up in the morning.
Yeah, I think depression sucks more than anxiety. Once you figure out anxiety, it's kind of, okay, I know what to do, but when it comes to depression, it's still just...
It's just like this giant fat cat sitting on your chest.
Pretty much. Yep.
Ugh. Alright, please. It was getting in contact with you and just straight up telling you, I'm scared to go by myself. Being like, can I go with you? We can get ready and stuff together.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared to go alone.
It's always good to have a buddy system when you're going to bars anyway. That's just general safety and also you have more fun that way.
True. Yeah. That and, just having a support system.
And I highly suggest not using anxiety as a crutch to...
Please don't.
No. Like, I see so many people who, like, say whenever they can't go to events, they're just like, I'm sorry, I have anxiety. And it's like...
So do I. What's your
point? So do I. But, it's used as a crutch way too often, and it's kind of... It's a little shitty, too, because sometimes they'll, like...
They use it as an excuse to flake out.
Yeah, they use it as an excuse to flake out and then go to a bigger event with more people, so it doesn't really make sense. Even if you do have anxiety, it's just not good to rely on that, because think of it this way, we never would have met or done this, really. Ever, if we had not.
If we had just given in to our anxiety and said, no, we'll stay indoors and just... stay away from people. Yeah. We'd have been more like Facebook friends at this point still. We would have just been like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, you never know what you're like, who you're gonna meet out there. Yeah. And this isn't just for goth events either. This is
just for everyone.
Any general thing you want to go to.
Like, thinking on that, I don't like the idea of people using their illness as a crutch. I've heard too many people use like depression, anxiety, and so forth as a crutch. Like, I've known people who have been, they act like a total asshole. People who treat you like total shit, and then they blame their mental illness, but they never do anything to fix it. Even if you openly tell them, hey, what you're doing is making me feel like shit. Can you not do this? And they're like, oh, well, I just have anxiety, so, that's just what it happens. I'm not worried about it. And they leave it at that. Yeah. As it's an excuse to treat others like shit. Yeah. So it's like, no. It's not an excuse to treat anyone like shit. It's not an excuse to skip things all the time and flake out on people. Now, if you are generally having a panic attack and legit are having issues with your depression, anxiety, or any other mental illness there, and it legit is limiting you to a point that you can't work past it, then that's a different story. Yeah. But if you're just leaning on it to be leaning on it, then that's bullshit. Yeah. And you're just going to turn out worse in the long run, isolating yourself, and it just makes it worse in the long run for you and everyone around you. It's always a good idea to just keep pushing forward. Keep trying to move.
Try doing a little at a time. You don't have to go to every single event. You don't have to.
Nobody says you gotta do that.
No one's forcing you.
And if anyone does, they're an asshole. It's fine. Don't worry about it. If anyone's forcing you or guilting you into doing things, then it's not worth doing. They're an asshole. Leave them alone. Yeah. It's it's whatever. Yeah. It's an event, so you're supposed to go and have fun. But if you're not in the right place to go have fun, then don't.
Yeah. If it helps, if you're in like an in-between spot of whether you want to go out or whether you don't, do yourself a favor, flip a coin. Decide that way.
Flip a coin, contact some friends. Yeah. Be like, I can't decide. Because whenever you get a hold of your support group that can make things easier or not, you know, they may be like, yeah, I'm staying in, because I know we've done this before, but like, I don't know if I'm feeling up to going this time. And it's like, yeah, me neither. I'm over people.
The other thing is, like, and this does happen where you go out and you're fine, but then you do have a panic attack in the event. Know that you're gonna be okay. Like, you're not gonna die. It feels like you're gonna die, but you're not gonna die. You're probably gonna feel like shit the next day, but it's not. Don't let it ruin everything for you.
No. That's another good reason to, whenever you do go out to things, as somebody with mental health issues, make sure you have your support group.
Yeah.
That's why you always want to have someone there for your support.
Hell, if you know, like, the club really well or something like that, and you know the bartenders, talk to them about it. See if they can, like, you know, have, like, a little Uber save up for yourself, and if, you know, you're cool with your bartenders, just be like, hey, I'm having a really bad panic attack, can you maybe call an Uber to get me and go home, and, you know, have them call one up for you.
You're not alone, dude.
Nope.
There's no need to go alone if you don't have to be. Even if they're not goth people. You know, I have friends that are just interested in going to events, even though they're not goth, or they don't even listen to the music. They're just like, you know what? I'll give it a shot, because I want to be there to support you. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah.
Which is always awesome.
Good friends.
Yeah.
Good friends.
Good peeps. Keep your good peeps.
You've taken from me and leave me.
Well, for the longest time, I was, like, terrified of going to a counselor or therapist, because, you know, people bring up that whole, oh my god, they're gonna change you.
So you were afraid to get a diagnosis, or?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to get a diagnosis, just with that, like, that logic of, like, they're gonna try and force you into not liking things, or, you know.
Yeah.
And there was also, and this was actually a question brought up, and I don't think we have it down. You guys had any therapists who, you know how to deal with Goths? And that was another fear I had too, was somebody bringing up the fact that I like wearing all black and makeup,
and then they'll be like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're just like, fuck you.
Which is totally, maybe with a lot of boomer therapists, maybe that's a possibility.
I've had one therapist do that shit to me.
Yeah.
One. Never went back to that guy.
Yeah, and that's just, it's illogical.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's kind of like blaming video games for violence, or blaming.
Well, what did the people in World War I what video games did they play?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious.
There's a lot of therapists and, you know, counselors out there who probably are very manipulative, and
Therapists, doctors, everybody. There's always bad actors in every field. Stigma was, like, I remember for the longest time it was a huge weight. Huge thing over everyone's head. Anybody who had any mental illness, it was just a huge dark cloud for the longest time, because everybody would be like, well, you're depressed because you're wearing all that black and got all that weird shit on your face and that jewelry, and it's like, that's not why I'm depressed. That has nothing to do with anything. And I remember for the longest time I actually used to believe it. Then it was just like, no, this is bullshit. This isn't affecting. Because when I started trying to be normal, it made things worse.
Yeah.
I tried that in like 5th, 6th grade. I tried to be a normal kid, but it didn't work. It made everything worse. It made everything terrible. And I just, no. Oh, for the longest time, wasn't the stigma was awful.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was in all the movies, all the main media. It was, oh, they must be a crazy person, you know, like, oh, they're crazy.
Thanks, Columbine, you fucking dicks.
And then, like, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't, like, walk into a school or anywhere if you happened to be more alternative without people giving you the look and watching you. And just being like, I bet they're sick in the head and they're gonna shoot up this place. And it's just like, no. If you ever mentioned the idea of being depressed, like your parents, I remember like my dad would be like, oh, you have nothing to be depressed about. That's bullshit. Suck it up. You know, this idea of toughness that we have to have. Forever, I believed that I couldn't show any signs, kind of similar to what you were saying earlier. So like it was embarrassing to have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to show that type of weakness. And it's like boomer logic, I guess, is the best way I know how to put it.
It's totally boomer
It's
logic.
old school logic that we are supposed to be ridiculously tough. For what reason? I don't know. To prove something. Look at my hands, son. Look at my hands. Basically, how the stigma affected me is that I thought for the longest time that I had to internalize my symptoms. That I had to pretend everything was much better than it actually was. So that way I could prove I'm normal. I'm okay.
I remember doing the same when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
I thankfully got out of that once I was a teenager.
Yeah, I did it for fucking ever until like my 20s. So, you know, till late teens, early 20s. You know, you just pretend everything's better than it really is. Yay!
Leave me with my.
Do you think so?
No.
Same.
The thing with, and this pertains to actually another question that's kind of the same, but not really, which is, like, does the goth scene, you know, drive people to come out, or people with mental illness to come to things? I don't think so, because it's all about what people like, really. If people like a dark aesthetic, they're going to go to a thing with a dark aesthetic, whether it be, you know, a heavy metal show, a freaking punk show, a goth show, it doesn't matter.
Even if they're even if their brain is pumping the most serotonin possible and they've got a perfectly healthy brain, they're allowed to like dark things.
Yeah, it's all about, the main thing that drives them is the wanting to be around other people that are like them. It's no different than people who want to go to church. It's no different than people who want to go to, you know, a game night at a comic book shop. It's
Country music shows, I guess.
But yeah, don't get me wrong, that the goth scene does drag people with those conditions out, but it's gonna drag them out to anything. And I'm actually going to steal what somebody else said, which is it's important to respect people who have mental illness and talk, you know, learn about it, talk about it, but it's also really important to set boundaries for yourself. If somebody is showing very, very obvious signs of manipulating and gaslighting you, avoid them at all, like, as much as possible.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that person, you know?
Fuck them. No, I'm out.
Like, you're not a therapist, you know,
Yeah.
you're not a counselor, and even if you were, you know, doing it in a professional setting, it is not your job to take care of everybody, you know? And my mom, like, grilled that into my head when I was a kid, like, you cannot save everyone. And it's true. It's very true. And if you try, chances are you will hurt yourself and your own life trying to do so.
This is very true. I actually did do some research on that question, just because I was genuinely curious if there were any actual studies that maybe support that idea or the theory, if there was any truth behind it. But honestly, everything I read was no. I do agree with some of the studies that basically say they tend to attract a lot of people like that. Because, well, let's be honest about goth, punk, metal, and all this stuff, are this type of subculture, the dark subcultures, they are rather appealing to somebody who already feels like a total outcast.
Yeah.
Because we're a subculture of outcast. We're basically a big old bunch of outcasts. And so other outcasts are like, oh, maybe I'll be normal amongst them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll feel more at home amongst these people.
Yeah, and about 90% of the time, it works. It works out. They make friends. They join and they're
You know.
at peace.
Are they actually? No, they're not actually related. I think that was just some shit that like parents came up with back in the day to just be like, our kids are being weird.
Yeah.
Let's make them stop being weird.
I kind of feel like it might have come from the Satanic Panic.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, I can see that. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Cause what? Kiss was devil's music for.
Yeah.
Kiss is devil's music. Okay. No, there's no way that's even possible.
No.
So, don't let the old school logic get you. It's stupid.
Don't let the boomers get you.
Okay, boomer.
What you've taken from me and me.
Said you like to take a day to do nothing?
Yeah.
To not people at all.
Yep. Not people at all. I'll paint my nails, which one of the issues with my anxiety I have is biting my nails, so if I paint them up real nice and pretty, I'm less likely to frickin' chew on them. I also have a what's that stone called? Worry stone. I actually like made it into a necklace. I don't have it on now because I'm not panicking, but I'll wear that to work sometimes, and if I'm feeling really anxious, or I'll wear it secretly to an event sometimes too. I'll bring it out and I'll start doing this so that my hands have something to do.
Yeah, that's always been an issue with me too. Busy hands.
Yeah. I also highly recommend, it's an expensive investment, but a weighted blanket.
Oh my god, we got one too.
It's nice, right?
Those are dangerous. Like, once you get under it, it's... Damn.
You're not moving.
Yeah, you don't go anywhere. I just wanted to fall asleep, like, immediately.
Yeah. They help a lot, and it's also really good for you because it can kind of help you build your muscles a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I know this is pretty obvious and maybe stupid, but drink lots of water.
Yes! Speaking of which...
I need to drink mine, actually.
I have a little bit of past. I think one of our viewers actually asked about this before, with self-harm, but I do have a little bit of past of self-harm. Not like I actually like sat there and cut myself and so forth. It was just because of the anxiety, a nervous tic that turned into shit. Now I'm bleeding. My nervous tic is scratching. I scratch. I can't. It's one of those things, I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I would just scratch.
I scratch at my eczema patch out of nervousness, so I get it.
It's just, I would just scratch, and a lot of times I would scratch until there was blood.
Yeah.
And there were some times I would do it on purpose, just because it felt better. It was a relief, in a way, if that makes sense, because from what I've understood from talking to other self-harm people, is that it's kind of a relief when you hurt yourself that way. Kind of like, I've heard some people say it's due to them just feeling so numb, they want to feel something. So it's like, oh, well, I can make myself feel this. I can feel pain. That I know I can feel this. So it's something. Other people, like for me, it was just something else to focus on. It felt almost like I could breathe the moment it started bleeding. I don't know what it was. It was just something that I did, and it just felt better to do it. And then afterwards I'd be like, well, fuck, now I need to clean this up. This isn't gonna do any good. This is gonna be really annoying for like the next week or so this sucks. Because in the long run, it's not fun. It's not. And people get really weird about it. But one of my coping mechanisms for that, since mine was always scratching, is I would start feeling itchy, so I would start doing like massaging instead. I would start rubbing instead of scratching. So that way it would just, I can still get that stimulation of being able to comfort myself with something like that, but instead I would just start rubbing and kind of like massaging an area. So that way I wouldn't scratch at it. Other coping mechanisms I found is to acknowledge thoughts, but don't act on them. Don't give them a ton of attention. For instance, like there are many times I've had thoughts that are, like, what if I jumped out in front of this 18-wheeler? what if I did this? You know, you steer into the void.
Yeah.
You know, you get those thoughts. I've learned at this point, at first I would really want to act on them when I was younger, but now I can acknowledge that thought, I can look at it and say, well, there it is. That's what I'm thinking. All right, now I'm done with it. And another coping mechanism, I know it sounds so stupid, but I love it. I love to do little things to make myself laugh. You know, fuck everybody else. I'm making me laugh. Because if I can make myself laugh, then I'll feel better. Because when you laugh, it releases good chemicals in your brain, which equals you relax, anxiety depletes, depression feels a little better, you know. So you do stupid shit to make yourself laugh. So I do a lot of stupid shit to make myself laugh on a regular basis. Like when I'm walking up and down the halls at work and I'm feeling kind of bummed, I'll just start going, wee. My coworkers will usually go, the fuck are you doing? Like, if you are diagnosed and medication is a thing that you actually need, in my case, if it is your serotonin levels, please, there is nothing wrong with seeing a doctor. There's nothing wrong with medication.
Nope.
If it is absolutely necessary, if you need it to feel human, then do it. Yeah, self-care is a big thing. Self-care is a constant thing. Like especially in certain mental illnesses, I've actually been helped a lot with things like massage as well, because especially if you're having a lot of anxiety and self-esteem issues, especially self-esteem issues and body dysmorphia and things like that, it can especially be helpful for that. So there's another coping skill for you kids if you want to try it.
Also, don't be afraid if a coping skill doesn't work at first, to try it again later.
The only last bit of advice I can give anybody in any of these situations when dealing with mental illness, like I said earlier, it's not sympathy most of the time people are looking for. Most of the time people, they just want someone to listen and understand. They want patience and understanding. That's all they need most of the time. You know, just be patient, respectful, and try to understand that your loved one, or whoever, your friend, your loved one, your relative, whatever, they're dealing with some shit.
My little last piece of advice is, if you ever have the issue of anxiety and you keep having that thought of, oh, these people all hate me.
Everybody hates me, might as well go eat worms.
Yeah.
Nobody likes me.
Nobody likes me, everyone hates me. Replace the word hate with they underestimate me.
Ooh.
That's helped me a lot recently. Because it's so fucking true 90% of the time.
Oh, that's nice. I've never thought of that one before.
Yeah.
Nice. The Four Agreements is a great book. It's short, sweet, straight to the point, and it doesn't get super religious or anything. It's 4 agreements you can make with yourself that actually make a lot of sense.
Okay.
To make life easier.
Take a break.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
You're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're gonna do stupid shit. It's okay.
We're gonna do stupid shit.
All the time.
On camera. Yeah.
Right.
Hope this helped you guys a lot. And even though it's not professional advice, but it's what we've learned, and we just, again, suicide hotline, link to that book will all be down below. And
we love you.
love you.